You know, few actors are able to turn out as many consistent performances as my next guest. You probably remember him from the real McCoys. I remember him from Our Miss Brooks. Real McCoys was in the 60s. A steamy film that if I see one more time, I'm going to break my television set, called Body Heat. It's on the cable every 20 minutes. This year, he's back with a new series and a new film. Not many people can make that statement. This is Richard Crenna, who must be very rich because you've been working as long as you've been alive.
I've been working a long time. I hate to look back.
Did you start as a little?
I started when I was very young, yes.
You did radio, Richard, in the heyday.
I did radio in the glory days of radio, yeah. I had the pleasure of working with most of the greats of radio, Amos and Andy, Gosden and Carell, and Ed Gardner, and you know, go down the list. Bob Burns even, Lionel Barrymore on Mayor of the Town, Gene Herschelt on Dr. Christian. It goes back a long way.
And you played many different roles.
Yes.
On those shows. It was not uncommon for an actor to walk in, am I correct, and taking a script and maybe doing 4 or 5 different voices.
Yes, in those days, it was, my training was unusual in that I was never formally trained as an actor. I got into acting quite accidentally as a child, because most child actors are mimics. I was a good mimic. I had a very good ear, and I was taking a course in junior high school, as a matter of fact. I was not taking a dramatic school. I took it only because there were pretty girls in the class, and I was not a fool, even at 10.
You were no fool then.
So that's how I started, and I started doing radio shows. I started auditioning and getting roles in radio, and my ability to do dialects, to do different characters, is what really kept my early career moving. I always thought I would move on to something else. When I grew up, I was going to be something other than an actor. I'm still thinking that. Someday I'm going to be a cowboy or a fireman. I've always wanted to be.
You did a series for a while that I loved with Bernadette Peters.
All's Fair.
Oh, I thought that was wonderful. I thought that had
Thank you. Thank you. I loved that. I really did. I thought we were off to what should have been a very good start.
So fresh and
and I loved working with Bernadette. She's such a wonderful, wonderful performer and such a marvelous lady, as you know.
Now you're doing a series with Patty Duke Aston,
who's another marvelous lady.
Oh,
I'm very lucky. I've worked with some lovely ladies in my day.
No chopped liver in your career.
No,
all real.
Patty is wonderful. She is just our new series is an absolute pleasure. I'm glad to be back on television with that kind of material.
Were you at all apprehensive about another sitcom after having...
Well, I'll tell you, it's very strange, because what happens is, you know, I was on a roll in motion pictures. I had done Body Heat, which you mentioned, and which you're going to see again tonight when you go home.
I saw it before I left.
Oh, yeah, it'll be on. It's probably playing in your car at this very moment.
I hope the ending changes, because it's very sad, I'll tell you.
And then I went into First Blood with Stallone, and following that, I did a picture called Table for Five with John Voight, which will be out in February of next year. So the tendency was to think, well, boy, you know, your motion picture career is really moving along at this moment. Let's lay back and just do motion pictures. That's never been my theory as an actor. My theory as an actor, and I think the reason that I've been able to survive, as Jackie was saying earlier, I think I've earned the right, after all these years, to stink. So I will do things that perhaps are challenging, or perhaps might not be as safe as some people might consider. They might think, well, you know, why are you doing that film? Well, at that point, I wasn't offered First Blood or Body Heat or Table for Five, but I felt it was important to stay in action.
How about working with Stallone?
Oh, and Stallone was wonderful. I mean, Stallone was wonderful.
Sharp,
he's a very sharp fella, and that's what motivated my accepting that film.
Tell us about your role in First Blood.
Well, it's a very interesting role. I played Colonel. Well, it's based on a composite of maybe 50,000 true stories.
Medal of Honor.
Medal of Honor winner. John Rambo, played by Stallone. Green Beret. He is a victim of delayed stress syndrome. This is now 7 years after his return to the United States, after his stint in Vietnam, in a very elite group, which I commanded. I recruit Stallone, I train him, and I command him in Vietnam. What happens is that Stallone is now a drifter, unable to get work, unable to really adjust to civilian life.
Not unlike what's really happening out there.
Oh, listen, unfortunately, Mike, it's what's been happening to so many of the Vietnam vets who came back to the indifference and the hostility, if you will, of the American public to this great sacrifice that they made, all these young men. So he plays, in effect, a composite of that, an exaggerated example.
Now, do you know about this clip? Can you tell us something about this?
Yes, this clip is the end of the picture. Colonel Troutman has now been sent by the Pentagon to defuse the situation in this small town where Rambo has gone berserk. He has been set off by a small town sheriff who hassles him and brings back. It sets up a computer that I have programmed, and now I have to come back and defuse that. And this scene is I think this is the scene with Stallone at the end of the picture, which is the beginning of the end. I don't want to tell you how it ends, but this is the beginning of the end.
A scene from First Blood, starring Richard Crenna and Sylvester Stallone.
Drop your weapon. I'm going to order the chopper in and fly you back to Bragg.
Sly in this film, I think, there's been a lot of speculation in the papers through the last several seasons with the successes of Rocky I, Rocky II, Rocky III. Can Stallone play anything but Rocky? Well, I've always thought he could play a lot more than Rocky. Some of the films that he's done have not been as successful as Rocky, obviously, but in this picture, I think he's going to win an entirely new audience.
Will you stay, Richard?
Yes.
Yes, please do, because we'll be back. The Sandy Canyon and the entertainment news. He'll tell you about how rich he is.